Greetings, cyberdogs and citizens of the internet, and welcome back to another episode of Scrappy Racers. In the previous episode, we created a Scrappy Racer called the Scrapster E-Series, and in this episode, we're going to be working on a new racer called the Cobra. Now, the Scrapster E-Series did pretty well on the speed test, although it could have been a bit better. Got down the track in 41 seconds flat, or around 41 seconds or so. And overall, you guys in the comments of the previous episode gave it a rating of 5 on the Scrapometer, which means that the Scrapster E-Series gets its own garage right here next to the speed track, and we shall preserve it in our world. Anything less than 5, of course, means that our Scrappy Racers hit the junkyard, but in this case, the Scrapster E-Series did us proud in the first episode of Scrappy Racers. Well, let's get on to some crafting, my friends. Let's head over to the scrapyard, and we're going to be working on today's Scrappy Racer called the Cobra. Welcome back to the Scrapyard Workshop, cyberdogs and scrap mechanics from all over the world. And I want to thank you all for the amazing amount of love you gave me in the previous episode. You guys are really enjoying this new series on my YouTube channel. However, I still feel that we could be doing a little bit better. So if you guys really do want to see more of this series, you need to show this episode some love, man. But I'm going to do another episode because you know what? I'm having so much fun in this game. I don't want to give it up just yet. And today, we're going to be working on a new Scrappy Racer called the Cobra. Now, the Cobra vehicle in real life is a vehicle that I have always loved. It's kind of a very small little vehicle, a small little sports car, and it has a very cool sort of old school look to it. And I don't know, man, as a kid, I've always loved a Cobra and I've always wanted to get my butt into one. So today, I want to make something that kind of resembles a Cobra. And hopefully we can make it look amazing, make it go ridiculously fast, get down this drag strip and hit that ramp with a vengeance by the end of today's Scrappy Race. Now, I'm going to make this Cobra out of the blocks that you can see in my inventory. We're going to be using some metal columns, some duct holders, some duct corners, staircase wedges, staircase railing joints, and then a whole bunch of other stuff to create this Cobra Racer. And I've been playing it around in the junkyard a little bit. I have a pretty decent idea of how I want this Cobra to look. And let's get down to some serious scrapping, my friends. I'm going to make this Cobra 5 of these columns wide. I need to remember the names of these things. Metal columns, okay? So it's going to be 5 metal columns wide, and I want to use as many metal columns as I possibly can in this particular build. A lot of you guys were mentioning in the episode of the previous, or in the comment section of the previous episode, that weight is actually a really important part of scrap mechanic, and you need to be able to balance your weight to power ratio. And so what I want to try and do is make the Cobra as heavy as it can be so that we can get a whole bunch of downward force on our tires, and that way we can pump up the power output of our engine. Today we're going to be using a petrol engine for the Cobra Scrappy Racer. And I want to mess around with the petrol engine for now. And I know there's some other sweet engines we can use, like a jet engine over there. But for now, let's keep to gas power, baby. Let's see if we can make a racer that's worthy of a 10 out of 10 on the Scrapometer. Now, guys, as you can see, I'm laying down the foundations for the chassis of the Cobra. And maybe, for some of you guys who know what a Cobra looks like, maybe it's starting to make sense why I chose this particular style for today's Scrappy Racer. I guess this doesn't really resemble a Cobra 100%. It's also going to be quite similar to the very old Formula 1 racing cars, and it'll all start to become a little bit clearer once I get this chassis down. But check it out, man. We get to use some of these really nice blocks in this build. I really love the curvature of this duct holder, and I know these are supposed to be air vents, but in Scrap Mechanic, we're currently in beta and in creative, and these blocks that you can see in the menu, this is all we got. So sometimes we got to use our imagination. We got to try and be a little bit creative with the blocks that we use for our Scrappy Racers. So I'm using ducks today because I think that ducks give us a really clean metallic look to the Cobra, and I think that's going to look absolutely freaking awesome. Now check it out, right? Here's when we're really going to Cobrafy this bad boy. Check it out, man. We're going to get our ducks back on like this, and if we just do a little bit of this action, oops, my bad. Let's get that in there. Switch these in this direction. Check it out, right? We get a really cool looking front. Look at that. Now that's starting to look a little bit like a Cobra right there, if you look at the front of a Cobra or one of those old Formula One racing cars. And that is the exact design that I am going for right now, man. Absolutely awesome. Alright, the sides of the chassis have been installed. Looking pretty cool, man. This thing's starting to look a little bit like a missile or something. It's looking pretty cool. So check it out, guys. We can now work on the top of the chassis. And as you can see, the textures connect seamlessly from the corner ducts to the flat sections. So that gives us a really nice, smooth line on the vehicle. Check it out, man. Doesn't that look freaking awesome? Yes, that is an absolutely beautiful line right there. Now, I have a really cool idea for this Cobra also. Why don't we try and get a racing stripe in this sucker, man? Let's pimp this ride a little bit and check it out. We can use these shelf supports as a blue racing stripe down the center of the chassis. Man, that looks absolutely pimptastic, doesn't it? Oh, baby, look at that. That's looking freaking awesome. Loving that. Okay, so next up, we got to work out where our driver's seat is going to go, and I'm thinking we probably want to stick it around here somewhere. I kind of want to drop the driver's seat into the into the heart of the chassis though, just so that it looks a little bit more awesome. So why don't we clear away a few of these metal columns and get our driver's seat down. Maybe we put it over there like that. Yes, that's looking awesome. And then check it out. We can install like a little windshield over here. Oh, baby. Yes, that's looking awesome. Okay, so that leaves us just with the back to complete chassis-wise. So let's get this installed. And, you know, this time around, what I want to try and do with this particular build is do the entire chassis first and then work on installing the engine and installing all of that other stuff. And I think that might be the best way to go about making Scrappy Racers. Instead of worrying about the engine from the first section, why don't we worry about the chassis before we do anything else? And that'll give us a good idea of where the engine will actually sit on the vehicle itself. So let's finish off the chassis. I want to work on the grille of this bad boy. And yeah, the grille of a Cobra or a Formula, I don't even know what it is, man. Formula X? Who knows, man? The grills are super important, right? The grills are kind of what make you recognize these vehicles when you see them on the road, right? So I want to try and make a really cool grill over here. Already looking kind of awesome. It's kind of like a little mouth in there. And check it out. Maybe we can use these wedges, to accentuate this mouth look. So this is going to be like the intake, I suppose, right? So check it out. We do a little bit of this action, and we can finish it off like so. A boom. Oops. Bam. Okay, that's looking pretty cool. And I wish we had some blocks that we could stick in here. Axolot, can't we get a wedge that would fit in there or connect with these things? That would be really nice. I thank you very much if you're watching this video. But check it out, man. We can finish off the grill now with a little bit of this action. And actually, this staircase short railing makes a pretty decent grill if we turn it the other way around. So check it out. Just like that. Bam! Check it out, man. That makes a pretty cool grill for us, doesn't it? And I reckon we could pimp this up a little bit by adding a light in here too. Let's just add one light on the side there. It's a little bit of an asymmetric look, but I actually quite like that asymmetric look. That looks absolutely freaking awesome, man. Look at that. Baby! That's looking sweet. Okay, so we've got our racing stripe. We've got our chassis installed. I suppose what we need to do is work on the back of it also. So let me finish the backside off too, and then we will have a look at setting up some of the mechanics. Well, the butt of this Cobra is starting to look freaking sexy. You know what I'm saying, my friends? Check it out. I've installed a couple of exhaust pipes and a couple of tail lights too, and I think that completes the back look of the Cobra pretty well. We're also trying to maintain a weight balance here, so the number of blocks we've used at the front of the Cobra are pretty much even to the number of blocks we've used at the back. So from a weight perspective, I think this build is going all right. Next up, I want to try and install an engine into this bad boy, and as mentioned before, we're going to be installing a gas engine, and I reckon we should stick this engine just behind the driver's seat like that, and also make sure that the pipes of the engine, yes, there they are facing this way so that we can actually see them when we are on the side of the vehicle. That looks absolutely awesome, doesn't it? And actually, speaking of pipage, we could install some ventilation pipes also for this engine. And one of the problems with the Scrapster E-Series that you guys mentioned quite often was that it was an electric engine, didn't actually need any ventilation. But as this is a gas engine, I reckon we install some exhaust pipes or some radiator pipes anyway that are going to be pumping air into that engine as we cruise down the strip. So I've got the air coming in from the top. Why don't we get it all the way up like this, and then we can add a couple of these suckers like this. Oh yes, that looks awesome. Okay, so our engine is getting ventilated from these two pipes. That's looking absolutely badass. And also we can imagine that the pipes are running under here and connecting up to the exhaust pipes over here. I suppose we could actually do that by running the pipes underneath over here, right? We could actually do it realistically, although I don't know how necessary this is, but you know what? We're going to do it anyway, just to make sure that things are looking freaking as sweet as possible inside and outside of our Cobra. One of my primary goals with this Cobra Scrappy Racer build is to keep the design of it as simple as possible. I want the lines of the car to do all the talking, baby. And we can already see that the lines of this Scrappy Racer look absolutely amazing. If we look at it down from this side, it just looks so freaking cool. However, I think we can add a few points of interest to the design by doing stuff like this, right? So check it out. I've run a pipe over here. I've got a join pipe over there, and I'm going to stick one of these corner pipes like so, and another one facing upwards, and then we can stick this valve thingy on top of there. And I think that that just adds a little something to the back of the Cobra that breaks up the symmetry of the racing line and the very, very whiteness or silveriness of the body. And look at that, man. That is so cool. So we've got a little bit of asymmetry in the grille of the Cobra, and we now have a bit of asymmetry at the back of it too. And I think that this is looking absolutely gorgeous, and the Cobra is now ready to get some wheels added. Before you start throwing tomatoes at my face in the comments section, my friends, I fixed the hood, okay? I just noticed that there was some incorrect blocks here, but look, it is looking sweet, smooth as custard. Look at this. Look at the lines of this thing. Looking amazing. I've also added a little tail to the end of it, which I think looks absolutely awesome. Look at that, baby. Oh yes, looking beautiful. And I added a couple of wedges here to complete the cockpit look of the Cobra. Next up, let's work on installing the wheels. Now, in real life, these kind of vehicles have the wheels coming out the side of them, and I want to try and emulate that. So check it out. I'm going to be using this here sport suspension, and I'm going to stick it out the side. I hope that this is actually going to work. Oops, pressed the wrong button there. I hope this is going to work sideways like this. We're going to have to just test it out, I suppose. And then to connect a tire to this, we're going to have to stick a pipe at the end of that suspension, stick a bearing at the end of that, of course, and then we can stick our tire like that. Wow, that looks so cool. All right, let's go over to the other side and do exactly the same thing. Get our suspension in there, a little bit of pipage, a bearing, and a tire, baby. Look at that. Oh, that looks absolutely epic. All right, let's get to the front of the vehicle and do exactly the same. I want to try and make sure that it's as symmetrical as it could possibly be. So two spaces from the front. So 1, 2, right over here. Yeah, that's 2 spaces from the front. This is where we're going to be installing the front tires. Now, one of the major issues that you guys had with the Scrapster E-Series was that the steering mechanism was 100% out of the line. I made a really bad axle design that was, and I admit, absolutely terrible. And you guys have been schooling me in exactly how to do this. So thanks everybody who helped me figure this out. Check it out. We're going to put each of the front tires on its own axle. So we're going to stick a bearing down here into the chassis. Then we're going to stick one of these metal blocks on top of that bearing. And as you can see, each of the wheels is going to turn autonomously. So they're not going to be relying on a single axle to turn. They are going to be functioning on their own. And that is pretty much how we can synchronize the steering of a vehicle in Scrap Mechanic without making the jankiest axle that you ever did see. So we're going to do exactly the same on this side, get the wheel installed, and have a look at that. That is looking amazing. I am loving this build, man. Look at this. Oh, baby. So, first things first, let's get our engine connected up to our back tires. So there we go, we're going to get our engine connected to the tires, make sure that the tires are turning in the right direction. Yes, they are. Second up, we are going to be connecting our steering wheel to those new bearings that we created at the front of the chassis over there. And as you can see, the steering wheel is now going to turn both of those bearings at the same time, and thus these two wheels are going to turn together at the same time. So that's looking freaking awesome. What else do we need to do? Next up, of course, we need to connect the steering wheel to the engine so that we can control that engine with our foot pedals and whatnot down there. And that, my friends, is the complete build of the Cobra Scrappy Racer. And there's only one thing left to do, and that is, of course, to take this beautiful build onto the test track. So let's drop it down, pick it up, drag it outside here, get it onto the initial test track just in front of the scrapyard like this. Beautiful. Drop it down, and now we get a nice look at this bad boy in the sun. Let's just get this block out of our hand and look at this beautiful Scrappy Racer. Isn't this a thing? Oh, beautiful. I am loving this build. Okay, next up, let's configure our engine. Why don't we start at a fairly low frequency for our engine, or a fairly low strength. Let's start at 80% engine capacity. And for the very first time, let's fire up the Cobra. And it is looking freaking awesome in here, isn't it? I love looking down this hood. It is so cool. All right, let's do a little bit of driving. Let's, okay, yep. I think we can probably pump our engine up a little bit. Let's go for a little test drive down here. Looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. Stability's good. Stability's good. But I think we could probably pump this engine up a little bit more. Let's crank it up to 90% capacity. And let's try this out now. Boom. Okay, it's a little bit less stable, but we definitely have some more power. Oh my goodness. Okay, yep. I think we got some stability issues. Man, I did the piping completely incorrectly here, my friends. I do apologize for that facepalm, but before we can take the Cobra onto the racetrack, we need to make sure that its inner body is working correctly. And I think what happened there is the exhaust pipe actually popped out of the back of the Cobra somewhere. In fact, it might be, yeah, there it is. It's on the floor of the scrapyard. Yeah, that's my bad. So not only is the Cobra's handling a little bit iffy right now, but it was also not functioning at full capacity, and its exhaust pipes and stuff weren't really working as they should have. So had to do a little bit of repair work to this bad boy, but I think we're probably ready to rumble now. All we got to do is repair the chassis once again. There we go. Let's get that in there. Looking beautiful. Now let's get rid of our lift, drop the Cobra down onto the road, and we can do another little test drive. We're keeping our engine at 90%. I think I just need to do a little bit of drive practicing, right? It looks like the suspension is absorbing some of the impact of the road. And check it out. If I'm just very gentle, I think I will actually be able to get myself down this track in one piece. So you know what, my friends? Let's take our position on the race course for the test of the Cobra. Ladies and gentlemen, and scrapsters from all over the world, welcome to the second Scrappy Race of 2016. Drivers, start your engines. DJ, burn that record. Let the Scrappy Race begin in 3, 2, 1, go! Here we go, my friends, the second Scrappy Race of 2016 in the Cobra. And we are off to a good start. The handling is kind of iffy. When we get to top speed, the Cobra starts to float all over the road, just like that. But as long as I take my foot off the accelerator and try and keep the steering going, let's see if we can get to the finish line in one piece. There's the finish line. Come on, Cobra, you can do it. Oh, bam, we did it. Next up, let's hit the ramp. Let's see if we can get there. Come on, Cobra, you can do it. Hit the freaking ramp, you bastard. Oh, derp. So let's talk about the Cobra Scrappy Racer. Unfortunately, didn't manage to get over the ramp, which was kind of derpy. had a little bit of handling issues down the track too, but seemed to have some pretty good speed. I think the best thing going for the Cobra is probably the looks. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. As far as a racer is concerned, there's probably some work that we can do, and I feel like it has some balance issues, potentially some weight issues too, which is maybe why it struggled to keep a straight line down the track. However, I really love the way that it turned out. I really enjoyed the build and the way that it looks, so I'm going to give the Cobra in all a total of 7 on the Scrappometer, and I would very much like to create a garage for this sucker. But of course, the decision is down to you guys. If you like the Cobra Scrappy Racer, you need to give it a rating on the Scrappometer of 1 to 10, and if it gets a rating of below 5 on average, we will be relegating this bad boy to the junkyard. Well, that does it for today's episode of Mechanical Mayhem, my friends. I really hope you did enjoy it and that you enjoyed the race. I had an absolute blast. My name has been Rendog, and I cannot wait to see you all in the next episode of Scrappy Racers.